It is to the endless. We're watching Dante's Boxing Nation. Keep watching. Otherwise,
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? This past weekend, Felix Tito Trinidad was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. When he was there receiving his honors, he was asked a simple question. He was asked if he could fight anyone in his era, in his time, who would it be? Referring to an active fighter today. And Tito Trinidad, he said it would have been Floyd Mayweather. Tito Trinidad will go on to say that I think I would have been able to beat Floyd Mayweather. With my boxing and my physical condition, fighting on the inside, fighting on the outside, if it was a 12-round fight, I think I would have caught him eventually, end quote. Now, before I get into talking about how Trinidad versus Mayweather would have looked, and Trinidad versus other fighters like Manny Pacquiao, and why Trinidad only brought up Floyd Mayweather and no one else in this era of boxing, before I talk about all of that, let me first tell you guys what I personally think about Felix Tito Trinidad. Tito Trinidad is personally one of my favorite fighters. He is the longest reigning welterweight champion in history. He has some of the most impressive wins over the biggest names in the sport of boxing. Okay, when it comes to the Fernando Vargas fight, that knockout win that he had, I watched that fight probably about 25 times. His knockout win over William Joppy, I watched that fight probably a good 15 times. In his career, Trinidad beat 5 undefeated fighters, knocking out all but one. Fernando Vargas, Oscar De La Hoya, David Reed, Obakar, and Luis Yoriboy Campos. All of these fighters, like I said, were top-notch fighters. He is credited for ending a lot of these fighters' careers. Fernando Vargas and David Reed, they come to mind. Fernando Vargas, before that fight with Trinidad, he was a beast. He was considered the next Oscar De La Hoya. He was considered the next big star. He was a former Olympian. And, going into that fight, it was somewhat of a 50-50 fight. A lot of people thought that Fernando Vargas was going to be the one to dethrone Felix Trinidad. Another thing that needs to be noted is Oscar De La Hoya, who I hear some people say that Oscar De La Hoya, he's never ducked anyone. That is some bullshit. Oscar De La Hoya, he ducked a couple people. But the first person he ever ducked was Fernando Vargas. Oscar De La Hoya wanted no part of Fernando Vargas, okay? When Fernando Vargas was undefeated, Fernando Vargas, he made a career calling out Oscar De La Hoya. Fernando did not like Oscar, and Oscar responded by saying, there's no way I would fight this guy. There's no way I would let a guy who doesn't like me or acts this way make money off of me. This is what he said. But Tito Trinidad, on the other hand, he took the fight with no problem. And I remember this like it was yesterday, watching this fight. We was at a fight party somewhere, I believe, in San Fernando Valley at my cousin's house. And I remember right after Fernando Vargas got knocked out, I said to everyone, I guarantee you that Oscar De La Hoya is going to call out Fernando Vargas now, right? And I swear to God, guys, it wasn't even, a week didn't even go by. And Oscar De La Hoya was already saying, I'll fight Fernando Vargas now. I'll fight him now. And Oscar De La Hoya, he did the same thing with Ricardo Mayorga. When Ricardo Mayorga was having his 15 minutes of fame and he was on top, he had just beat Vernon Forrest twice. He was calling out Oscar De La Hoya. He was calling him out over and over. Oscar De La Hoya had no interest in the fight. Once again, it was Tito Trinidad who was actually making a comeback. His first fight comeback was against who? It was against Ricardo Mayorga. He knocks out Ricardo Mayorga, and that's when Oscar De La Hoya decides to fight Mayorga. This all makes Trinidad look that much better. Let's also go ahead and revisit the Yoriboy Campos fight. Now, when Trinidad defended his title against Yoriboy Campos, this was an impressive knockout win. One of the most impressive knockout wins I believe Tito Trinidad has on his record. Because you guys have to understand, this was somewhat of the Julio Cesar Chavez era, okay? And at the time when Julio Cesar Chavez was coming up, he looked almost indestructible until he fought someone like a Pernell Whitaker. But, you know, before that, he looked indestructible. And you had this new fighter coming along, and I remember Larry Merchant was talking about this kid before I even got to see him fight. Larry Merchant said, there's this new fighter coming out of Mexico and reminds people a lot of Julio Cesar Chavez. It was the undefeated Yuri Boy Campos. Okay, at the time, I believe Yuri Boy Campos was 52-0. He had a record that was very similar to Chavez. He had that same type of indestructible style. And I truly believed, at the time, that Yuri Boy Campos was going to most likely beat Trinidad. Okay, I'm just thinking, you know, another tough guy with a tough chin and very aggressive. And it turned out all of that tough chin, that face-first type of style, it played right into Trinidad's plan. Now, going into that fight, this is when Tito Trinidad's chin was being heavily criticized. I would say Tito Trinidad, he had somewhat of a Gamboa chin. Okay, so it's like, you think about it logically, you say to yourself, Tito Trinidad doesn't have the best chin, and he's going in the ring with a guy who probably has an iron chin, and he's an aggressive, durable fighter with power. You know, you're automatically going to lean a little bit towards Campos, right? And as advertised, Tito Trinidad, his chin is tested in this fight, and he gets knocked down in the second round against Campos. But what makes Trinidad so impressive and what makes him such a warrior, I always tell people, it's not about you getting knocked down. It's how you get up when you get knocked down. That's what really shows what type of chin you have. Because when Trinidad got knocked down, he got back up and he started to beat the shit out of Yuri Boy Campos, knocking him out in the fourth round. That was a very, very impressive Rocky Balboa type of fight. Okay, where, like I said, the champion gets knocked down, he gets back up, and he knocks him out. All right? So that's when I realized this man was something really, really serious and something special. So moving on. Now I talk about Trinidad versus Mayweather. This is the thing when it comes to Tito Trinidad. Trinidad was a special type of banger because he had a little bit of boxing ability. Trinidad, he could beat boxers and he could beat brawlers. But the key to beating Trinidad is you had to nullify his left hook and you had to have damn near a flawless defense. That is how Bernard Hopkins, Winky Wright, and Roy Jones beat Felix Trinidad. So if we know that this is the way you beat Trinidad with a great defense, then it should be pretty easy to figure out who would most likely win a fight between Floyd Mayweather and Tito Trinidad. We know that Floyd Mayweather is probably known as having the greatest defense in the sport of boxing, possibly. I mean, if I told you guys that Floyd Mayweather's next opponent is a guy that is flat-footed, he is somewhat easy to hit, he has somewhat of a suspect chin because he gets knocked down all the time, the dumbass fans would immediately start to make excuses, wouldn't they? They would immediately start to say, "Oh, there Floyd Mayweather goes cherry picking again. He ain't never fought anyone that challenged him. He's just picking another easy opponent. He's just picking this guy because he knows he gets knocked down, because he knows that he's flat-footed, easy to hit, so on and so forth." That's what the dumbass fan would say, right? Once again, praising Floyd Mayweather and not even realize that they're doing it. When you hear people say, "Oh, well, you know, this guy was too old for Floyd. Oh, that guy was too young for Floyd. Oh, this guy didn't have enough power. Oh, this guy didn't have enough speed. This and that, this and that." Floyd needs to move up to middleweight, and then he will really be challenged. That is what you call praising Floyd Mayweather. Because no one will ever ask Manny Pacquiao to move up to middleweight, right? No one would ever ask Sergio Martinez, even if it was 2 years ago or today, no one would ever ask Sergio Martinez to move up to super middleweight and fight Andre Ward, right? No one would ever do that. But they do it with Floyd Mayweather. Why? Because they praise Floyd. Because they feel the only way someone would have a chance against Floyd Mayweather is if this man has like 10 times the advantages over Floyd Mayweather. So the point of the matter is, Floyd Mayweather would have decisively outboxed Tito Trinidad. If you guys don't know Floyd by now, if Trinidad was in the welterweight division right now, Floyd would have loved setting that fight up. He would have loved making that fight because he knows that this is the perfect opponent to look great against and get the credit that he would deserve, at least by the majority of boxing fans, right? Now, another thing you have to ask yourself is, out of all the fighters that exist today, all the fighters that are active today, why did Tito Trinidad only say he wanted to fight against Floyd Mayweather? And the answer is simple, right? It's because Tito Trinidad believes that Floyd Mayweather is the fighter of this era. He believes that Floyd Mayweather is the man to beat. But what about Floyd Mayweather's nemesis, Manny Pacquiao? How would Tito Trinidad have done against Manny Pacquiao? Now, if you guys remember what I said earlier in the video, I said the way you beat Tito Trinidad is by taking away his left hook and having a flawless defense, right? That is something that Manny Pacquiao does not have. Pacquiao does not have a flawless defense. And Tito Trinidad is the type of fighter that if he can land, especially if he can land his favorite punches over and over again, he is going to knock you out. Ask Fernando Vargas, ask David Reed. Okay? These were very elite fighters at the time. I think Manny Pacquiao would have made the fight competitive for as long as it would last, but I think eventually Tito Trinidad would catch up with Manny Pacquiao. Once again, Manny Pacquiao is not an inside fighter, and he does not have a great defense. That is, you don't want to get in the ring with Trinidad if you don't have a great defense. Okay? So, that's pretty much all I got to say, guys. I'm on to the next one.